Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Jay, and here's what he has to say. Hi Sandman, just in time for Christmas, I'd like you to cover this article posted by Neroke on Red Pill Nation. I'm worried that MGTOW is growing too quickly and drawing too much attention, and eventually there will be a showdown of some kind. What do you think, Sandman? Well, Jay, thanks for your donation as well as your topic request. I put the link to the article you sent me in the description below in case anyone wants to check it out. According to Neroke, his thesis is this, and I quote, MGTOW has arrived and it's about time. Attacks against MGTOW are going to become more numerous, dishonest, and all likelihood more hateful than anything thrown against us with regards to other factions in the Manosphere. There's a video on that page as well where he says that if feminists and women in general want to defeat MGTOW, all they have to do is change the marriage laws. They need to make being a father or husband easier and safer by surrendering female power to men. If that happens, then MGTOW is gone within 6 months. But we all know that's not going to happen. Women have too much power and they refuse to give up even a sliver of that power, so they're instead going to try and silence us and hope that we go away instead of changing their own behavior, because as we all know, change is hard. Also, under the comment section under that Neroke video, some guys have actually gone as far as to say that MGTOW has nothing to do with marriage law. While this is perfectly valid, there are many men out there that have been going their own way because they can't deal with the nastiness of female nature. But I would agree to that to some extent because a lot of men would actually commit fully to women and go back to the plantation if they had power handed back to them. So the numbers of men going their own way at that point would fall off a cliff. It wouldn't disappear completely in 6 months, as there have always been lifelong bachelors. I don't know what percentage of men going their own way would disappear. Perhaps 60%, 70%, who knows? But the loss of so many men would obviously make MGTOW less relevant. I also don't buy Neroke's argument completely that women will attack MGTOW more than the MRA, because he's thinking the way that a man would instead of the way a woman would. Women probably think that most men going their own way are losers that refuse to show their faces because they have something to hide. Women don't see the status that these guys have. If they started showing off their expensive vehicles, homes, and other lifestyle details that bring status, then we would actually see women attack us. The best example of that was actually what happened to the Mayor of MGTOWN, where he received half a dozen attack videos after showing off his sports car. So long as men going their own way don't show off, we will remain under the radar, but at some point someone in the MGTOW movement is going to show off their wealth, and then the fury will begin, especially if that wealth is generated off a MGTOW channel. Then women will probably say there's no way they're going to let a man get away with discussing women, making well into the 6 figures, and building up his lifestyle. My advice to guys like Howard Dare and MGTOW 101 is not to show off your lifestyles once you start making 6 figures. Stay anonymous and keep your finances out of the equation. The YouTuber known as MGTOW is Freedom shows off a bit, but not a single petty feminist is going to attack him for living in a frugal lifestyle with regards to living in a trailer, even if he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Over the course of the last 3 years, I've proven that it's possible to make some money on a MGTOW channel and help bring a lot of new people in to start their own profitable channels. I created a formula, and that led the way for other content producers to start doing the same thing, and we will see even more and more daily content producers, and some will be making a full-time living from it, and it'll just snowball out of control. The more people learn about going their own way, the more new content channels will pop up with daily content, and thus more people will find out about MGTOW. It'll probably just escalate, and that's when we'll see the full hatred show up. But let's hope that by then it's too late to have any meaningful impact on men going their own way. The only way to stop us now is to demonetize our content on YouTube, which is the primary source of income for MGTOW channels. Unless that happens, I'm predicting that more and more new channels are coming in the following years. Neroke also says that the attacks against MGTOW will be bigger than the attacks on the MRA, but I really doubt that because we don't actually meet in any physical places like the MRAs, so there's no evil bomb threats to call in, and no fire alarms to pull if you're a feminist. Feminists are also no longer standing outside men's rights events, but are actually sitting in on them under the cover of being men's rights activists themselves, or possibly escorting their boyfriends and other males to these events, and the moment they show up, the tone policing begins. As we've seen, the best way to get MGTOWs to shut up is to dox them. Just look at what happened to CS MGTOW. He pulled down his entire channel after that. The only way that women can destroy men going their own way in their channels is to threaten their income by doxing them and basically outing them to their employers. But what happens when there are dozens of men making a living from their MGTOW channels, and even if you dox them, it doesn't impact their income? Suddenly, feminists might try, as I said, to get our content demonetized as hate speech. That could lead to trouble. Another really interesting source of hatred against MGTOW comes from the MRA itself. enough. Instead of attacking us if the MRA was serious about killing off the MGTOW movement, they would actually go and change the laws. But they can't do that, so they're now attacking us by trying to label themselves as MGTOW, especially guys like Paul Elam. And if they successfully label the MRA as one and the same as MGTOW, then it'll receive more attacks. But luckily for us, that hasn't happened. No one is going to believe that because Paul Elam is living with a woman, even though he says he's going his own way. Then there was Louis Marco, and he came out telling everyone that he was going his own way, and he didn't care too much about losing his livelihood because he was making 6 figures income from his YouTube channel with regards to bodybuilding. Neroke also says that MGTOW is going to force women to up their games besides looks and genitals. I agree that we're going to see more female chameleons showing up pretending to be all that in a bag of chips. They will work hard to be the women that men want them to be, but that only works to a point. That's only a short-term strategy to help her get the guy to fall in love with her, and then they pretty much go back to their old ways. Once men going their own way learn about the female chameleon, it doesn't matter if women up their game, so long as the game is rigged in the favor of women, men will rationally choose not to participate. So Neroke was right at first by saying that if women want men to giddy up back to marriage, they need to give men power. Men have also been burned so badly that they aren't just going to suddenly be happy with a few little concessions. Neroke also says that MGTOW will get more attacks because feminism is losing badly and creating desperation in women. And he says this is his opinion, but that he actually doesn't have any evidence. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Many of my friends are going their own way or waiting for the perfect unicorn girl that's never going to show up. Most men going their own way aren't declaring to the world that they're going their own way. They're just doing it. How do women protest against a man who just lives alone in his apartment and occasionally dates? They aren't going to label him as going his own way and attack him because of that. They probably don't even want him to know what the label is in the first place, because if he knew that it was actually going his own way, instinctively he might actually start watching or listening to MGTOW content, and then he would completely be beyond a woman's reach. Notice how women primarily aren't talking about MGTOW at all. Notice how there aren't any coordinated hit pieces online or in the newspapers. As far as women concerned, the less men know about it, the better. Yes, Neroke makes a valid point by saying that social justice warriors are making more coordinated attacks online, but that's all part of fourth-wave feminism. There's nothing new about that. MGTOW is nothing more than a lifestyle choice, and the MRA is about changing the laws. The men's rights movement is all about men taking overt power, while MGTOW is about men taking covert power. If women admit that MGTOW is a problem and that something has to be done about it, then women are revealing that there is actually value in having covert power. But in doing so and attacking MGTOW for being passive-aggressive runs the risk of revealing women's game, and that's the last thing that women want to do. Neroke also says that MGTOW is above Gamergate, MRA and other things exclusively a boys' club, and women can't get into it. But that doesn't mean we aren't going to see the rise of the so-called WGTOW or WGTOW woman, black women going their own way, or women going their own way in general. Those two groups of women are being chameleons and trying to attract men that are choosing to go their own way. That's the female chameleon in action. The only thing is she doesn't understand that it's not going to work this time. It's worked for every single other social situation between men and women from the beginning of time. Yet this time, no soup for you. These women are probably hoping to be welcomed by the MGTOW community, but it's simply not working. The female chameleon is absolutely powerless. Neroke is right on one major point though, that given enough time and space, MGTOW can shift the cultural narrative. If you believe that it can't, then simply look no further than Japan. But as I was saying, women in Japan aren't attacking those men because they don't want to draw attention to it, so other guys also become herbivores as well. But even if women want to stop MGTOW and they reveal their hatred for it because it's taking away willing slaves from the plantation, how are they supposed to stop it because there are no figureheads? It's hard to stop because it's all about individual men, and right now, all women are doing is playing whack-a-mole. They knock one guy down and there are 3 more growing out of the ground to take his place. Just do a search for MGTOW on Google Trends, and recently you'll see a massive spike in attention. But there are no mainstream articles being written about men going their own way. There seems to be more and more attention focused on men's rights and next to nothing on MGTOW. The BBC even tried to spin MGTOW as a bunch of misogynistic women haters, but it's hard to do that in media when you don't have a clear villain that everyone can actually point to and women can unite together against. It's a real huge problem. You get guys like Milo Yiannopoulos and suddenly he gets a $250,000 book deal and feminists freak out. If next year I showed everyone I had made $250,000 on this channel and did a whole bunch of trips and was driving around in an Aston Martin revealing my identity, the hate in the news stories would actually start pouring in. Women simply couldn't stand the fact that a man was showing off his status, which was gained by telling men not to marry, and also dangling the resources in front of their faces, and they couldn't actually plunder them. That's when women would hate us. Until then, that's not going to happen. People only hate you when your message goes against what they have to say, but it also brings in higher status. Women understand status, and if a man is cutting them out of a great life they could be enjoying, then that's when they actually start to attack. Women attack the men's rights movement because suddenly there were a bunch of guys out there getting the media spotlight, and women see themselves as having a monopoly on attention. How dare men try to talk about themselves instead of focusing on the lives of women? Once women joined the men's rights movement, suddenly the nasty behavior died down, because it became just another place for women to get attention. YouTube is democratic, so women can pretty much put themselves up and get all the attention that they want. But once MGTOW channels start cracking into the hundreds of thousands of subscribers in 2017, that's going to bring in a lot of hate as well. As for Neroke and his idea about MGTOWs being attacked more than any other parts of the Manosphere, it's not going to happen, so long as we stay under the radar. But if MGTOW 101 charters a private jet full of champagne, then God help us all. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Jay, for your donation as well as your topic. Also, don't forget to check out the MGTOW mystery link and also like this video. As for everyone else out there, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the unwanted and angry female attention away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.